everyone, and welcome back. This week's going to be a little bit different. It's not actually a week review. And if you're new to this channel and you don't know what I'm talking about, every week we try to do a weekly review in which we go over the things we did that week and the things we have planned for next week. If you're here for the video title and the contents of that, I'll leave in the description and the comments a time code to skip to if you want to just watch about the Moza and the new firmware, because there are some cool updates and you should definitely stick by. But for the other fans, and hopefully the new people too will stick around and you'll watch our previous videos too, there's something we need to address. The point of the week reviews is to have easy content to make every week, and it was also a way for us to be able to hold ourselves accountable to our own goals, and at the end of each week be able to reflect back on what we did and how much of that we actually accomplished. But last week when we sat down to do the video, we realized we didn't have much to talk about. I mean, we talked about some things that we bought, which was actually longer than we expected. And this week, our plans fell through. We don't have that much to talk about either. So for us, it's like a wake-up call that we need to be able to manage our time better. And while we're actively trying to work towards a better time management, I hope you guys will join us for our journey, because we're relatively new and, you know, this is growing pains. We didn't realize, you know, as most people probably think, that making a YouTube channel would be this challenging. So hopefully you'll stick around, and again, if you're new and you watched that, awesome, thanks. Be sure to subscribe. Like I said, weekly content, at least of reflections. But let's get to the news. So this week, Moza released a new firmware update for the Moza Air. And very specifically, Ran Levi had asked me to do a test in which I don't use any of the stabilizations in the A7S or any lenses to just see how well the Moza stabilize. And while I did film that a couple weeks ago, I never got around to publishing it. Well, this week, Moza released a new firmware update in which they claim better stabilization, especially in the roll axis. They also claim that they improved the motor protection conditions. So I know there were a couple of cases in which the Moza started to smoke for some people. And you know, that happens with all products really. They're not all going to be perfect. There's some defects always. But to my knowledge, Moza Gunsen has been pretty good at addressing warranty issues and stuff like that. They are really backed up with orders, it seems, since a lot of people are still waiting for the shipments. Anyways, since I had the old footage from the test, I wanted to see just how it compares in the new firmware. The first thing I did last time was set the gimbal and I faced it towards my window, and I let it run for a couple minutes to see if there would be some drift in any of the axes. Now, to my surprise, in the new firmware, if the mode is set to lock all axes, it actually drifts a little bit on the, what is this? XY, on the Y-axis? It drifts a little bit this way. It pans. And that's kind of weird, but if you set it to follow all mode, and since you're leaving the gimbal steady, that problem doesn't happen. Now, you're probably watching the difference in the old firmware versus the new, and you might notice a slight vibration on the old firmware. It's very subtle, but if we zoom in 400%, you can really tell that there is some improvement in this area. I should also point out that I did calibrate the gimbal before running these tests, so I'm very pleased in that area. Something else that seems to be improved, even though it was not mentioned in the Moza notes, is I think, and I actually didn't test this before filming, I think the whine sound levels are much lower now. Okay, so hopefully that was better, worse. It's definitely not worse. It seems quieter, which is a nice improvement. But it's also something that never really bothered me. While on the previous firmware, I also tested moving the gimbal around with no IS. And I couldn't really notice a big difference between having no IS and having inlet stabilization on. But I was also doing slow movement. So as the perfect line commented on our Moza review, I don't have any running shots. And there's actually a good reason for it. We also own one of the older glide cams. And I was never really good at running shots. Even with the 3-axis stabilization, you get no stabilization in the Y-axis. So if you're walking and you're moving up and down, you won't get that stabilization. So that requires some practice. And I didn't want my inability to do that to make it seem like the product was bad. But in any case, he did point that out. He is right. And so I did some running tests. Nothing fancy, just on my backyard. I ran towards the fence. So for all these tests, we're going to be using the 50mm 1.8 from Canon, which has no in-mode stabilization, and I'm going to be turning in-body stabilization on and off. I ran towards my fence in my backyard a couple times with follow mode fully locked, with no follow mode, and follow mode in all axis. And to me, it looks like when all axes are locked, it's a little bit jerky. Probably because it tries to compensate more strongly for twists. It's not as forgiving in that sense. But I was actually pleasantly surprised on how well the other mode worked. Now, the footage is a little bit overexposed. It is really bright outside, and I didn't want to put an ND filter on. A little bit out of laziness. I also tested the same movements with image stabilization, with in-camera stabilization on. There does seem to be some improvement in this field, but it's not a huge difference. And you can probably get away with stabilizing in post if you really wanted to. Also keep in mind that wider angles will be less noticeable in terms of vibration and slide movements like this. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that answered some of you guys' questions that you've been leaving in the comments. I'm sorry I didn't get to them quicker, but we're trying. That's the truth. So I'm gonna get back to it in this video. Again, there's no week review this week, but be sure to subscribe to catch next week's, where we actually do accomplish something. All right, so like this video if you liked it. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.